See if I can make this work on my iPad because my computer's not working.
Oh, I love when technology doesn't work.
You know, it's been that way all day, and I'm like, good golly, this is great. So I got to take it in to get fixed. Whatever. That'll get a new one. How you been?
Good. Good. I'm flying in Tuesday.
Oh, cool. How are things in Washington?
Nice. Yeah. My sister told me yesterday that the weather was like 42 degrees. It's like 75 here. So.
Yeah, it's been one of the typical sporadic welcome to Colorado springs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you get 12 feet of snow one day and it's 75 the next.
Right.
And then you mow the grass 6 times in a week. It's awesome.
Right. But I'm excited to come see everybody. So.
It's a good one. It's a good one. Well, it's you and I so far, it looks like, and a few of the folks. So it looks like Carrie's on. So now we got people coming. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to walk through a little bit of an exercise that I've been doing with a bunch of folks, especially based on the market that we're in. Just to help us understand what's worked in the past, and then how do we replicate it in today's world. So that's going to be the process. That's kind of what we're walking down. So for those who are on, I believe this is being recorded for posterity, because why not? And yeah, for those who are on, grab a piece of paper and follow me down this list of questions. I know, by the way, we're probably only going to be a half hour, 45 minutes max today. We'll give you some time back this afternoon, and yet what I'd like you to do is just think about this for a second. Think back to a time. It could be in real estate. It could be outside of real estate. Think back to a time when you were crushing it, right? It could be business. It could have been in your personal life. And yet think about a time when you're just nailing it, you know, and write that down at the top of the page. You know, what was it? What was going on? How were you feeling? All those fun things. So we got that time when we feel like we were crushing it. Things were going great. Be it in real estate, outside of real estate, you know, what was going on, how were you feeling, all that fun stuff. So Adrian, if you'll share, if you're willing to, what was going on? What did it look like?
Well, I did 2 of them.
Let's hear.
Because I'm not really sure where we're going with this. So
that's the point.
Right. So the one that I did, just because I've had some things lately that have made me think more about my health. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking back to a time that I was actually in a program where it was very regimen, you know, and I had so much energy. I was feeling good, like super confident, nothing to do with business, right? But it got to the point where, you know, I was looking forward. In fact, people would tease me because I would have this jug of water that was like yay big. Some of you probably even remember that jug. I know Carrie does. And then, you know, I'd carry my bag of veggies with me, and I enjoyed it. Versus now it's kind of a punishment to do it. So that is the time that's sticking in my head, but I think it's more just focused on the fact that that needs to kind of be my focus again.
Awesome. So for all y'all who just joined, what we're talking about is a time in your life or your business when you felt like you were just crushing it, right? How were you feeling? What was going on? Edwin just shared about a time when she was really focused on health and what happened there. So here's the questions I want you to just kind of think about. Feel free to write them down, write down the answers. And yet here's the question. Number one, when you go back to that moment, what did you have to master in order to create that success or create that feeling of success? So what do you have to master in your life or in your personal world or in your business, if it's a business piece, that allowed you to have that success?
Are you asking me, or is this like something we're
in
all
general? And if you want to play along out loud so everyone else can answer the questions and get a feel for where you're at, let's do it.
Okay, so you are asking. Okay, so what had to happen was initially forcing myself to do an activity that I wasn't thrilled doing, and then after seeing the results, starting to look forward to that activity, and then it became a positive versus a negative.
Yeah. So by switching the way you saw it after time, of course, because let's be real, that's where you started to master that activity through practice and repetition. So here's the next question. What do you have to focus on in order to make that happen? And again, this is for everybody. Ask yourselves the question, and Adrian and I'll kind of go down this process together. And yet, what did you have to focus on to make that happen?
Well, I had a lot, actually. I had to focus on, for me personally, making sure that I had those snacks available. There was coaching involved. A lot of the same things that we do with our business. So just focusing on the things that simple things, right? Mm-hmm. Things that we don't always want to do and things that we don't always feel like we have time to do, though we just kind of prioritize differently on the time that we have. So I know very well that I do have the time to do that again. I've just chosen not to. And
so when you look at extreme effort, right, and extreme focus, in this situation, it was having the foods readily available, right? Having your jug of water, making sure you're tracking out those results. You had a coach, somebody to help you through it. So in the business sense, I mean, the same thing is true, right? When you look at it, what extreme efforts did it cause, or did it had to happen in order for you to create that success? And we can dial back into this a little bit. So here's the next question. Feel free to write it down, answer it for yourself. Adrian, you and I'll keep walking through it. Where did you have to get more purposeful so that you could create the results you wanted to create? And in your businesses or in each one of your categories, whatever you're looking at, where did you have to become more purposeful to make that happen?
Well, with the example, and I probably should have done the business example instead. It's just that this is the one I was focused more on right now, just because it would probably apply to more people on the call. But I had to be purposeful in everything, and planning. That was the biggest thing, is planning. Making sure that it's really easy to get off track. And that's the same, whether it's business or personal. It is very easy to get off track, and you kind of have to get uncomfortable. I mean, it's not the most fun to go to lunch with somebody that's having this wonderful fried meal and sit there and eat your pathetic salad or whatever until you see it as something different, right? So yeah, purposeful in everything.
So you had to be purposeful with what you ate, how you ate, even when the temptation came. Mm-hmm. I mean, fried cheese curds, let's be real.
Right.
So next question, here we go. By the way, answer this for yourselves, for the rest of y'all are on, is what did you have to learn in order to maximize the opportunity? In your case, the diet piece, it could be business as well. Yet, what did you have to learn to create the results?
So much. That's why it's taking a second to answer. I think the biggest thing is that, I'd say the biggest part that I had to learn is when I didn't seem to have the results for 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, that I had to make some adjustments and changes, but I had to keep going, because it's easy to say, oh, this isn't working anyways. I guess I'll have that cheesecake if it's not going to work anyway, right? Or this isn't working. Everyone hung up on me, so I'm just going to stop making these calls, or whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that leads to limiting beliefs, right? So what are the limiting beliefs that would show up that kept you, that every now and then, had you let them win, would keep you from achieving the results you wanted?
Would it have, I'm sorry.
Would have kept you from achieving the results you wanted?
What kept me from achieving it?
What limiting beliefs may have shown up through the course of that could have held you back?
Well, just that. Just if it wasn't working one week, or if something was off, or I have, sometimes my sister on my shoulder, oh, it's fine. It's just one thing. It's just one, it's fine. You can have it. Just giving into, I guess, peer pressure and temptation.
So the stories we tell, the stories others tell around us, all that fun stuff. In business, same thing, right? When no one's answering the phone, why should I keep calling? Script doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. That's not for me, you name it. So last question is this, and I think you've already answered this, yet I'll ask it again. Who helped you be accountable to the goals that you set?
Well, my coach, but also myself, my family to a point, but mostly my coach.
And what did your coach do to keep you accountable to it?
Well, I had to journal, show them what I was doing, meet 3 times a week. And if I wasn't achieving what the goals that I told them that I wanted to achieve at the beginning, that they would make my regimen a little bit harder. And I, just having to explain to them if I cheated, I would have to put that down on paper, and that's always embarrassing. So for me, it was.
Yeah. So just, it seems so simple, keep a journal. In this case, it could be business, what's worked, what are we learning through the process in a diet place. My trainer says it's 80% what you put in your mouth and 20% how hard you work. So tracking what you put in your mouth, how you eat, those pieces, which are always fun. And yet by doing that, you achieved and accomplished the goal. By the way, is we fall off the bus, right? We'll fall off that wagon every now and then. And it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just going back through the same process and going, okay, what do I have to master? How do I do it? Who to help me, et cetera, asking the same questions. If we're putting this into a business setting, same conversation, right? I mean, I got started in the business in 2008. So what did I have to master? Well, I had to figure out how to do short sales. I had to figure out how to work in a distressed market. I had to figure out what to do with 6-8 months worth of inventory on a market, in the market. How do I make sure I get a paycheck today versus 6 months down the road because I sold a short sale, et cetera, et cetera. Well, today's a different market. What do we have to focus on? We had to focus on getting the leads. We had to focus on how to take care of that. For us, it was door knocking at the time. And again, it may be different today. What did we have to become more purposeful of? How we use that time. When we knocked on those doors, were they going to be home? When was the highest door open rate is what we called it. So it was typically in the evenings. And then when you look at what you have to learn, you had to learn the script. You had to learn how to have a conversation. We had to learn what people needed in that moment that would cause them to be interested. Go down the path of what were my limiting beliefs. Number 1, I wasn't capable or qualified. Number 2, what happens if we didn't get the approvals the way that we were talking. Number 3, what, did they even care about what we were talking about? And was I really going to be able to give them what I was saying, right? Were we going to be able to help them in any way, shape, or form, be it to keep the house or to make that move? When you look at the flip side, how are we held accountable? In the beginning, heck, I had a family to feed. We had to figure that piece out. As we got more into the business, I realized that it wasn't so much about achieving the goals to keep the family healthy and doing what they wanted to do. It was about how do we continue to invest and grow. It was having a coach that kept us focused on that. It was having a partner that did the same thing, right? And that's different for each of us. So what I want you to do is this. So write down these 6 pieces. Number 1, commit to self-mastery. Number 2, follow the 80-20 principle. Number 3, move from E to P, and that stands for entrepreneurial to purposeful. Number 4 is be learning based. Number 5 is remove your limiting beliefs. And number 6 is be accountable. So here's the big question. What is that? For those who aren't on camera, you can also take yourselves off mute and tell me. However, what is it? And it's okay if you don't know. It's a little thing in Keller Williams land that we actually used to put at the beginning of every class we taught. And we kind of moved away from it. And it's what we call the 6 personal perspectives. Where it comes from, Gary Keller actually went out and interviewed top agents, top business owners. And what he found was most of those who are highly successful had these 6 pieces in common. And it's the same thing when you look at any area of your world where you've had high success. Where did you have to commit to self-mastery? What did you have to master, right, in order to do that? What did you have to focus on? 80-20, meaning out of 100% of the day, 20% of our effort will create 80% of our results. So what was that 20%? And oh, by the way, how do we increase the 20% of the time to be 30 to 40 to 50% of the time that we're focused on those key activities? Moving from entrepreneurial to purposeful, where did we have to break through that discomfort so that we created a habit that we choose to do because we love versus a ceiling that held us back? What did we have to learn to make all that happen? What limiting beliefs did we have to shed? What were the stories we told? And then who helped us be accountable? And that could be a coach, that could be somebody in your world, that could be your kids. For me, for a while, it was my kids. And yet, who holds you accountable? And the cool part about it is you can go back to the history, right? Like Adrian just shared with us this conversation around a health plan. You can take that same health plan and roll it into business, right? When you look at it, what in today's market, what do I have to master? Where does my focus need to go to create excuse me, to create the success? Where can I be less entrepreneurial and more purposeful to achieve the results? What do I need to know? What do I need to learn so that I can break through? What are the limiting beliefs? What are the stories I'm telling myself about today's market that may hold me back? And who or what can I bring into my world or have around me that will create that accountability? Because in order to create the successes we want, to remove the limiting beliefs, to really focus on getting purposeful, to utilize our time wisely and commit to self-mastery, it takes that accountability to get to that next level. So the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because there's a ton of limiting beliefs right now about our market. And you may not believe that you have some, and yet let me tell you how they show up. Finding a listing today is hard. Nobody wants to sell. How am I going to find them their next house, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Well, let's shed the limiting beliefs for a second. If you pulled up the market statistics, yes, we're having more sales and we're having listings come on the market. And yet, if you really look at it year over year, we actually have more listings hitting the market today than we've ever had before. So it's not that there's less listings. It's just that we're not choosing to go earn that right. Or we create a story to justify why we're not getting that piece of it. It's not that there's less sales. There's actually more sales that are taking place. Are we being part of those successes? Are we creating a story that helps us walk away from it? So all of those pieces are there. And sometimes the way we shed our limiting beliefs is just looking for the facts that discount the story that we're currently telling and shift the way we speak about it and the way we see it so that we can create those results. So I'm going to pause for a second. What are you taking away so far?
I'm hearing go back to the basics.
The basics. Tell us more.
Well, I mean, even with the 6 personal perspectives, it starts with mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes all the way through to what do you got to do, figure out what you got to do, be accountable to what you're going to do. And at the end of the day, it's all about, does, I call it the video match the audio?
Yeah.
Is what you say you want really what you're acting like you want?
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's, again, unintentionally, sometimes our conversation tells us where our limiting beliefs lie. So if we pay attention to what we say, it will tell us where the limiting beliefs are. You know, that's why I bring up the story of, hey, time out. It's a tough market. Is it? Well, it's harder to get a buyer under contract. Is it? It's harder to find a listing. Is it? The question goes back to what type of effort and what do I need to master to make that happen, right? How do I go from entrepreneurial to purposeful, make it a purposeful and a systematic process? So, and I don't know if you're able to share this or not, because I know you had a private conversation about this. And if you are, I'd love for folks to hear the story you told me about the gentleman who took like 3 listings a month for the last 12 months.
Oh, the open house kid?
Yeah.
Who's not a kid. I keep calling him a kid, but I'm pretty sure he said he was 50. He's not a kid. Yeah, really an incredible story. In fact, I'm still talking to him. I've asked him to be on a panel for a future team meeting here coming up to share his story. He's not a KW agent, and we'll work on that. And so brand new to real estate, just got his license about a year ago, but really was able to start focusing full time in real estate this past January. And between January and now has sold now upwards of $8 million in real estate, just in the first, seriously, 5 months of, not even 5 months of the year. And all of this business has come by way of open houses. And he's taking listings at open houses is really what's happening. And most of the clients he's picking up at open houses have a listing. And of course, they're going to buy again because they're looking to move. And so a part of this strategy, of course, is what does he do, say, at the open house? He's very strategic about that. He's also very strategic about the type of house he wants to hold open. Right, his average price point, I think, is just over 600,000. So he's holding a higher end home open. But the thing that impressed me the most on this is Well, I was thinking about, how many sellers right now are comfortable with open houses and how many agents are comfortable with open houses because of, back-to-back listings and all of these things. He shared with me that he is on the phone calling between 200 and 300 real estate agents every single week so that he can hold 3 open houses every weekend, 3 different open houses every weekend. And so now that it's staying light out later, he holds a Friday evening open house and then 2 open houses on Saturday. So he's open to show homes to the people he meets on Sunday. And 200 to 300 agents every week to be able to find those 3 open houses.
So I want to pause for a second because we all hear the story and either go, okay, that's awesome, or make up a different story about it. So if you made up a different story, and if you don't want to take yourself off mute, I'll tell you what the story I made up is. However, what was the story you made up?
My thought was, how in the world does he have time for buyers?
So how in the world does he have time for buyers?
Yeah, how does he have time for buyers if he's busy all weekend with open houses? And how is he going to have buyers go under contract when his only day to show them is Sunday and everything's already under contract by Sunday?
Right. So thanks for sharing that, by the way.
The limiting belief that popped up.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
all it is limiting belief because obviously he's finding success in it in one way, shape, or form. So let's walk down through the path. What do you have to master? By the way, who's he prospecting to?
The real estate agents.
So he had to master the conversation with the real estate agents because let's be real, we all want to know what's in it for us. So he had to be able to articulate that in a way that they would say, okay, yeah, that's great. We'll hold this house open. What else did he have to master? Do
The
people
open house.
accidentally just, what's that?
Marketing the open house.
Yeah, how to market
And
an
talking
open house, what type
to
of
how to
conversation-
convert those leads, right?
Yeah, what type of conversation to have? How do you do the follow-up with the leads? Oh, by the way, how do you set the proper expectations, going back to what Britt was saying, to ensure you have adequate time blocked to go do that, right? What was his focus? What was his 20%? 2 things: nailing the open houses and calling agents until he got them. Plain and simple, because without those first 2 pieces, nothing else comes together. What do you have to get purposeful about? Has to be purposeful about his time blocks. Has to be purposeful about when he's holding the house open. Had to be purposeful about what type of property and what price point he wanted to hold open.
He had to be purposeful too about his mindset inside of here, because Adrian and I had this conversation and we did the math. And it sounds like, oh, I held a lot of open houses and I got a lot of business, right? But no, he got a piece of business 1 in every 8 open houses.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to hold a lot of open houses to get 1 client, right? So he had to
Now
be
here's the flip side. Let's work it
mindset there.
backwards. What did it cost him to hold an open house?
Next to nothing, probably.
And
Time.
$8 million worth of volume. If you just took that at say 2.5%, what's 8 million times 2.5%? In 5 months. So he's averaging over $30,000, almost $40,000 a month because he's only getting 1 transaction for every 8 open houses. Would you take 1 out of 8 open houses to make 40 grand with limited expenses? I know I would.
Mm-hmm.
And the limiting belief might pop up and go, okay, well, I don't want to work that much, or I don't want to work that many weekends, or I don't want to. Great. Then do twilight open houses on Thursday and Friday. Hire a showing assistant to take care of the buyers on the other side. because your marketing costs are so low on an open house, it helps you maintain a high profit margin either way.
Keep your kids e-learning and take Tuesdays and Wednesdays off. No one listens at home on Tuesday. You're fine.
That's right. That's right. Well, and that's why I wanted to bring this conversation in today, is because so many times we walk into a market that shifts. By the way, we think a shift is a bad thing. Like, we went into short sale and foreclosure world. No, this market's a shifted market too. All of a sudden we went from having a reasonable inventory to nothing. And in order to get purposeful and win in this market, we've got to change what we're doing. And it's not a horrible thing. It's just taking a moment to look back and go, okay, what have I done in the past that created huge success, and why? And what did I learn? And where was my focus? And how did I get better? What limiting beliefs showed up in my world? And who or what's going to hold me accountable to do the work? The same process is true today. It just may take a different focus that you have to master. It may take a different type of conversation. We may create a limited belief that nobody wants to come to an open house because we're still in COVID Central. It is what it is. If you do it properly, it doesn't matter. And then the flip side to that is, because there's so few open houses, how many people actually show up? I've got a friend who held a house open. It was $1.1 million. She had 96 people in 3 hours come through her open house. They literally set up on the sidewalks because the line was so long. Those pop-up shades, so people could stand in the shade while they waited to get their turn. It wasn't just about selling the house. It was being purposeful about, how do I create production and additional production through that one listing that I've got? How do I use that listing to go get more listings? How do I use somebody else's listing to go get more listings? And that's my phone. So what else? What are you taking away from all this today? What's your next step?
I'll share my next step, just because I made the plan with my coach earlier today. It's to...
Oh, we lost you. It was going to be great. I think we got you.
I'm totally talking.
No, there you go.
Totally didn't even know.
So you're working with your coach,
and my focus is to schedule, manage, and follow my schedule. My schedule exists already. Like, my one thing exists recurring for the rest of my life. And so I'm going to write it down and then purposefully follow it, because it's, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is following the schedule that will, to do the activities that will generate business, period.
100%. Well, it's like what Britt was saying, right? How does he do it all? It's specific, it's scheduled. If somebody wants to ask to see an open house while he's got a property while he's got an open house, the answer is no, I have an appointment. Right? It's what we choose to call it, so that it becomes accepted, number one, number two, respected. So, and that's the key. That's the key to it all. And part of it's just slowing down to shed the limiting beliefs that we have. What else?
I'm going to throw in one more thing. It's also to set my intention for each day. Mm-hmm. So whether my intention is an appointment, it's whatever it is, set it, and the day's not over until it's achieved.
So it's commitment.
Yeah. Yep.
So can I give you another fun idea that may make you all sweat and not like Jake for a second? So and I'll do this with Anna since she's on the phone. Anna, how many appointments is your goal to set every day?
3.
3. So what would happen if you gave your cell phone to Amy and you couldn't get it back until you set 3 appointments that day? How fast could you set those appointments?
Well, let's consider the fact that I actually use my cell phone to set
Okay.
them. But in an undistracted environment, I mean, we set our first appointment in like 5 minutes this morning. So, I mean, I could have 3 appointments set in 15 minutes. Could be an hour and a half too, but it would probably be less time than it is if I'm distracted by a shiny object or a blinking notification or a real quick, let me just check in. What was that text? Yeah.
Yeah, that never happens in any of our lives. Any. And I asked the question because if we're to take away the distractions and not allow ourselves to dig into those distractions until we've done that one thing, how fast can we get it done? I use the phone as an example because let's be real. I'm 40 something and somebody else had to teach me how to text. And yet most of us are now addicted to this piece of technology. And if you don't have it, you feel like you're missing an appendage. So how fast do you want it back, right? So same conversation, turn off your notifications for Facebook, for your emails, all the other distractions until you make the appointments.
Well, and what are you willing to do, right? I read a phenomenal book on this not long ago called Indistractable or Undistractable. I think Indistractable, and it was really just a whole bunch of tactical advice on how to maintain your focus in today's world. I mean, you'll see. Man, I'm super easily all the time, super easily distracted. So I have to be very, very purposeful about that. Like I have this weird blinder app where if you're walking by my door and I'm looking at my computer, like I have to force myself to pretend you're not there. Otherwise I will look and we'll make eye contact. And then you're coming in my office and I'm like, I'm on a Zoom and you're like, hi, right? And it's a whole thing, but I mean, I'll put my chair in front of the door to keep myself from like going there and to send a visual message to others that like, oh, she's not available right now. Right. I don't know. What are you willing to go through to build your bunker? It's purposeful.
That is a true story. I've seen her put that chair in front of that door.
And as
a case in point, I did it to her today. But hey, I got a hug out of it, so I'm not really sorry. So I got a hug. So
that's all that matters. Well, and I think that's the biggest thing I would invite y'all to do is take a look back at the questions over the weekend. Take a look at how you could answer them today in a different way that would help you achieve the results you want to achieve. You know, I mean, I walked by the board last night and then today in Park Meadows, and I see Gwen Ham's name all over it. Hello. You know, it's the conversation of those who are newer in this industry don't know any different. And those of us that are experienced, not old, in this business, we want to go back to the good old days. Well, what were the good old days, right? Someone who's been in the business 12 months walks in the last 5 months and crushes it. It's because he doesn't know any different. This is just what you do. So if we were to erase all of our past experiences and go, okay, how am I going to win this in this market today? How am I going to achieve my goals in this market today? And not bring any of the story into that question, you'd find the answer pretty quick. And then the last question to that is, okay, am I willing to do it? Who's going to hold me accountable? And what's the daily activity, that daily 20% that's going to help me achieve it? So any last ahas, any last questions before I wrap up? If you weren't a fan of this conversation, what kind of car do you drive, Anna?
Yeah, I've got a really pretty gray BMW.
I was gonna say go keep my car, which was Anna's. However, she beat me to it.
Yeah.
So anyway, have fun. Seriously though, take some time, take some thinking time this weekend, and really go through and look at it. See if you can see this world a little bit differently through a different lens that'll change your trajectory and change your outcomes. because it works for all of us, even in leadership.
I was gonna give it aha unless you're about to wrap it up
Go
now.
for it.
Definitely the purposeful part of the conversation is what hit me up, because I found myself in a similar position where I'm going for sheer number, but then when I see myself out in the field doing all those door knocking, it's more like counting until I make it to my goal versus making sure that those little conversations that take place lead to something, if that makes sense. And so to hear that he was going for about one couple hundred agents per week, I think I got the number down. I just did not have the purpose added to it, and without it, like I went for nothing.
Well, and you nailed it, Ishmael. Without the purpose, it's just a number. And we talk about this in bold. Hey, go make 100 contacts this week. I could give a crap if you make 100 contacts. Don't tell anybody. What I really want to know is how many listing appointments did you set? What's the true purpose of the contact? It's to get to the appointment and find people who could have interest in doing that. So how many appointments are you going to set? You can go knock 1 million doors, and if nothing comes out of it, then it's a matter of taking a look and saying, okay, what do I need to adjust to create the results that I want? Is it what I'm saying? Is it where I'm knocking? Is it the time of day I'm knocking? What needs to be adjusted in order to create the results? And we just learn.
Jake, I hopped on a couple of minutes late. Did you share with them how your team has grown and how you guys are doing some new stuff right now and having fun results with it?
Which part of the new stuff?
You were talking about what you're doing for those old expireds.
Oh, yeah. So one of the things we started doing, instead of calling them current expireds, we started calling them 12-month-old expireds. And the reason we started doing this is because we found that they were overpriced 12 months ago. Well, based on a 16% appreciation rate in Denver over the last 12 months, what happens today? They're actually underpriced in today's market. So our conversation is, if I can get you what you asked for 12 months ago or more, have I earned my commission? And they say yes. And you say, great. If I don't hit that, or if I only net you what you were listed at before, you don't have to pay me. By the way, check with Damien or your broker on that one. However, that's what we say. What really happens though, as we all know in today's market, we listed it the 480 that they had it listed for 12 months ago, and it sells for
520.
520, 550, 85 offers in 12 seconds. They're thrilled. They love us. We kind of joke with them and say, okay, well, what if we just split the difference between what you thought you were going to get and what we actually got you? And they laugh. And yet it's how are we earning the right to have that conversation? And a perfect example of this, we had a house go on the market in our neighborhood, like literally 4 doors down. By the way, it wasn't my listing. That's a whole nother conversation. Anyway, went on the market. And Mary actually lives in our neighborhood too. It was another KW agent that wasn't her or I, which was really funny. 950. And for those who have seen my house, it's not fancy. We're in a 1983 Homestead Farm 2, beautiful, mature neighborhood with 22 to 2,600 square foot, 2-car garage homes. They were built in 1983. 950. This one had a 3-car garage. My wife, Emily, says there's no way. And I laughed at her and I said, it's going to go under contract in the first weekend for over $1 million. And her response was, who would pay $1 million for that house? She was at the bus stop on Monday morning, 12 offers, over $1 million. She came home and went, I can't believe it. That's our world. Last year, they would have listed at 850, it would have expired. Today we come in and go, okay, we'll list it at 950 and sell it for $1 million. And all of that's calling 12-month-old expireds because they don't realize what's going on the market. And they got a bad taste in their mouth from the last experience. The other conversation we're having is for sell by owners. And that one goes the same way. Mr. For sell by owner, you want 800 for your house? Yeah, great. What if I told you I could get you hired? Why are you gonna do that? Well, why don't we make a deal? If I get you more and I earn my full commission, would you pay it? Of course. If I don't earn my full commission, then we'll subtract the difference. You only have to pay me the difference. Okay. What we don't tell them is we have access to the marketing. We have access to 20,000 agents who all have multiple buyers that want their house because there's no inventory. And they're looking at how much am I going to save because I don't use an agent. And what we're doing is flipping the script and saying, how much more can I make you because you are? Right, going back to the questions, what do we have to master in today's market to make it work? By the way, that was not the question we were asking ourselves in 2008. 2008 was, how do I find a listing that's going to attract the right buyer so I can get a paycheck tomorrow? Today, it's how do I attract the listing so that I can get a paycheck tomorrow because I'm one of 45 offers if I'm working with buyers. Right, so it's all in the questions that we ask that start to design the outcome. Awesome. Anything else? Otherwise, I'll give you 15 minutes back.
Do you have your schedule for Jake Takes like a month in advance or whatnot? Because it was really
always, what is this, the second Friday of every month?
Okay. Because it was really helpful when Anna and I had our coaching session that she was telling me how wonderful the Jake's Take was going to be. And so I put it in my schedule ahead of time. Otherwise, sometimes.
Yep. It's always at this time, the second Friday, unless I'm on vacation or something else. So it does come out in the weekly emails, all that fun stuff. And yes, Anna had a sneak peek into this because I was walking her through the same situation. And she went, can you do that for Jake's Take? Mm-hmm. And the answer is, of course. So here's the big question I have. Now that you know this, you can't unknow it. So how can you help more people know it? Because the best way to master is to teach it. And I think the challenge is sometimes we sit down and go, okay, here's the 6 personal perspectives, and we walk through each one and we teach a class. The reality of it is when you connect the dots with people and put it in a way that connects with them, it becomes real. So that would be the challenge I give to each of you is work together or do it individually. Yet put a class on the calendar for the Market Center. Call it something sexy, not 6 personal perspectives. And yet have fun with it. Awesome. If you're up for the challenge, talk to Amy, talk to Anna, talk to your team leaders and market centers. They'll have some fun with it. They'll get it squared away for you. And we'll see you next month. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
You're welcome.